So how you been, man?
I've been fantastic. I was just about to ask you the same thing. I've been fantastic. It's been a while. Wow, how time flies. God, 5 years.
No
And
kidding.
yeah,
And before that, because we go back all the way to Spearhead Day.
that's right. That's right. That's
I
right.
wonder if even half of either one of our audiences ever heard of the Spearhead.
That's a good question. I have no idea. Although I do know that there are people who follow me around. I had no idea this was true until I discovered it. Apparently, there's a number of people followed me from A Voice for Men and the Spearhead, and then they follow me over to YouTube. So it's really been a humbling experience.
Well, absolutely. You do great work, man. You deserve the support.
Thank you.
And I couldn't think of a better guy to talk to, but I have a curiosity a lot. One of my patrons, you probably know who he is.
Yes.
Talks to me a lot about what's going on in the Black Manosphere. And I thought, well, hell, why don't I go the horse's mouth? Asking another white dude what's going on in the Black Manosphere.
It's interesting. It's funny because, well, first of all, before we even get started, let everybody know that in the interest of full disclosure, Paul Elam has proven to be a friend to me when many have not, and graciously brought me on to his team over at A Voice for Men years ago. And I did a stint over there, and I learned a great deal about this media game, especially being a man and, doing the male media thing. So I kind of cut my teeth over at A Voice for Men. So I'll always be thankful to Paul Elam and the good folks over at A Voice for Men for that. And as far as the Black Manosphere piece is concerned, I'll be honest with you, because we talked about this in email. I'm not a big fan of the white manosphere, the Black Manosphere, but yeah, we're Americans.
Yes, we are.
But I understand the moment that we're in. It is a woke social justice warrior post quote unquote racial. That's the moment we're in right now. So, and the reason why I like to use the term the Black Manosphere is not to inflame racial tensions or highlight racial distinctions, but because
come on, man, tell the truth.
but because Black Americans, and I suspect white people know this already, but Black Americans, we see ourselves as different. Okay, and a lot of Black Americans will try to frame it as, racism and discrimination. Read, the white man has, kind of segregated us out and then excluded us. When the truth is, we like it like that. We want to be separate and apart from white America, to tell you the truth. We want to have our, it's kind of like Native Americans. We really want our own type of thing. And a lot of Black people won't admit to that, but we really do want to have our own separate type of thing. And so I thought that the best way to describe what's going on, me and my compatriots, I didn't come up with this idea alone. For me, I thought the best way to capture what's going on in this sector of the manosphere is to call it the Black Manosphere, because in a very real sense, as much as I don't like it personally, but in a very real sense, there is a difference.
Okay. And I wanted to talk about that difference. Folks, I'm talking to Mumia Obsidian Ali. He's been dealing with men's issues going way, way back. This is not a new kid on the block. For those of you in my audience not familiar with him, he's probably forgotten more about men's issues than most people will ever learn. So give us an idea, if you can, what drove you to this wildly unpopular worldview to begin with?
Okay, well, the story for me begins 10 years ago when I was, I spent 22 years as a blue-collar guy and working in the trades. And one day I took a bad step and major slip and fall, major back injury, and that ended my career. And I was kind of, unceremoniously cast aside. The whole male disposability thing. It was a very difficult time in my life, and I had to bounce back from it. I kind of used the when I was growing up as a kid, there was a TV show called The $6 Million Man. Steve Austin, he's a test pilot, and he gets grievously injured, and he wants to kill himself and all the rest of it. And then this guy comes from the government and said, "Listen, we got this government program here, and it's kind of an experiment, but we can rebuild your body. We got the money, we got the technology, we can rebuild you and all the rest of it." So you see him running,
make you better than you were before.
Exactly. And so that's what I kind of used that metaphor for myself. I had to rebuild myself from the ground up. And one day I was convalescing in my bed with my laptop, and I literally stumbled upon you, Rouge, Rorsey, and it kind of blew my mind, what I was reading. And I decided right then and there, I said, you know what, I can do that. I can be a writer. And I had never done it before, but I said, I can do that. And that's what I started out to do. I pretty much taught myself everything. And that's what I did. And while I built my body back up to be functional again, I set out to be a blogger and a writer, and that was my original intention. And then there was another gentleman by the name of Paul Carrick Brunson who got on me about, he said, you're a natural for radio. You need to be in radio. He was talking about this in 2011, and I thought he was just blowing smoke up my ass. But a few years later, I decided to give it a shot, and that's when I started my podcast on YouTube, and I never looked back.
And that is called, for you guys that want to know, there'll be a link below in the description, Obsidian Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Or isn't that, did I get the name right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, and I'm also on a website called Mixlr, MIXLR.com.
If you'll send me a link, I'll get that to the viewers out there too.
Yeah, will do.
How did all this revelation and your sort of pushing out into writing about men's issues, especially from a black man's point of view, how did that go down with black women in your life?
You don't have to be a black guy to get a sense that
That's what I was asking.
You don't have to be a black guy to get a sense that they didn't think too highly of it. But I'll say this because there are people that will ask, well, the issues are the same with both black people, black men and white men and so forth. Well, yes and no. Let's true.
Talk about that.
Yeah. The thing with, okay, recently, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Glenn Lowry, but he's a very well-respected black scholar out of Brown University. And we recently had to talk about this. Black America, and I want to give a shout out to Shelby Steele. He talked about this as well. Black America is still dealing with the shock of freedom, as he called it. We're free, but because we're so undeveloped in the way that American society works, we're still, it's kind of like a shell-shock warrior, still fighting the last war. You never really left the war home, that sort of thing. And right. Black folks, in a way, are still kind of dealing with that. That's the reason why, for example, the whole kneeling at the football thing and Black Lives Matter and pretty much I call it the racism incident of the week. I mean, that sort of thing is really big with black folks, because what else is there? We don't have anything else as a touchstone or point to focus on, because so many of us are so undeveloped in other ways. And there's some truth that underdevelopment owes to some extent to the issues of the past. But see, the problem with that is that things don't remain static. Right. Time moves on. And so with black people, our cultural leaders, political leaders, thought leaders, academic leaders, and so forth, the leadership class, I guess you could say, they are still fighting the last war. They haven't gotten the memo that the civil rights era is over, or the civil rights movement is over, and we won. We won. And we're now faced with new challenges in a new century. W.E.B. Du Bois famously said that the problem of the Negro was the 21st. The problem of the 20th century for the Negro was the color line, and that was true. But that's not true for the 21st century. We got different challenges. And one of those challenges are, and again, shout out to Shelby Steele, one of those challenges is we won. We won. We're no longer, held underfoot by Jim Crow and racism. Yes, there are challenges that remain. No, all blacks didn't benefit equally from the civil rights movement. But the big strokes of things, we won. And we still don't know how to grapple with that. So we're still locked in a kind of time warp that goes like this. Were it not for racism, all our other problems would be solved. That's ridiculously simplistic. But that really is the prevailing view. And so all of the intellectual energy, all of the creative energy, and all the rest is focused on some form or iteration of racism. And so there's no room for anything else. There's no room for the kind of discussions that go on in the, I'm going to just have to say it, white manosphere. And let me give you a sense of just how bad this is.
All right.
For all of the real Sturm und Drang that goes on among white people. Let's use the white Me Too movement, for example. And the Shanty Banks type loud white feminists and all the rest of it. But you still have a Janice Fiamingo, a Karen Strawn, a Christina Hoff Summers. There is no black female analog. They don't exist.
Why is that?
Because being a victim is huge in black American life. And there ain't no bigger victim than a black female victim. Because you're black and you're female, so you're a double victim. As a matter of fact, one of the chapters in my book is called The Victim Queen. Like the Virgin Queen, the Queen of Scots, Queen Victoria. Well, in black America, a lot of black people like to talk, refer to themselves as kings and queens and all that sort of thing. Well, yeah, there's something to be said for that. And my concept is you have this victim queen. Black women are strong and independent and don't need no man on one side. But at the same time, they're victims of white men, black men, white women, patriarchy, the victim queen. And that's a very powerful concept. So,
help me understand this. Mumia, help me understand this, because I'm an old fart. I came of age watching Watts and Detroit burn on TV.
Yep.
And all I saw, and all I've ever seen from things like the war on drugs, is black men going to jail.
Yep.
And black men getting their heads busted. It wasn't black women.
Yep.
I mean, we in a culture where even half of America worshipped Angela Davis back in the day.
Yep. That's right. Well, see, this is what I'm talking about. So let's dial this back. All right. So the 1960s civil rights movement happens. One of the most pivotal periods happen in black American life. And that is the Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court decision, summer 1967. It's a case about interracial marriage, but when you really get deeper into it, it's a deeper question. It's a case about one of the most fundamental of American rights, who to love. Black people really never had to deal with that before because, let's face it, under Jim Crow and racism and all the rest of it, you were more or less forced to deal with each other.
Right.
But when that was over, now you could be free to choose who you want. And if you were a black man and you were, you prepared yourself for freedom, education, hard work, you had talent, and so on, when you were finally set truly free, now you had a choice as to who you wanted to be with. And that's one of the most important rights any human can have. And, mating is not democratic. Mating is not something that's subject to a congressional committee. They're going to be winners and losers. Nobody wants to say it like that, but that's the truth. And so for a lot of black women, and this is something that, again, you don't have to be black to know this. Black women are extremely sensitive to successful black men choosing women that are not of the rank and file, which today, let's be honest, is pretty big, pretty loud, pretty obnoxious. Nobody wants to say that, but we all know it's true. And so, you can just do a cursory, glimpse of black social media, if you will. And you can see, black women having conniption fits, over the latest successful black guy being with a high yellow black woman, so to speak. Nowadays they call that colorism, or otherwise just a non-black woman altogether. And but they haven't embraced the idea that that's what it means to be an American. A lot of black people, black women in general, in particular, are very wedded to the idea of tribalism, very much wedded to the idea of staying in your lane, a kind of arranged marriage. And that's the old world. That's not who we are as Americans. Americans have the right to choose who they want to be with.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because what I've noticed over the past 20, 25 years or so, and admittedly, my sampling is limited. I'm talking about generally what I see in media and in popular culture. But it still reflects an attitude. What I've seen a lot of is black women crapping all over black men.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Black women, again, the victim queen, right? So black women pretty much, until very recently, I would say not even the last decade for real, it's more like the last 5 years. Black women have pretty much had a stranglehold on the media. Now, what many black women will say, and some black men will say, well, what about gangster rap? Yes, there have been rappers who have, had their say regarding gender relations in black women. That's true. But even still, Russell Simmons can't compare to Oprah Winfrey. I'm sorry. He just can't. P. Diddy Combs can't compare to, Shonda Rhimes. There have been black women who have, and I'm not taking anything away from them either, but they have dominated the media space for black folks for decades. And the black manosphere has really been a shock to a lot of black women in that regard. It really, I kind of chuckle about the hubris of so many black women. I mean, they honestly thought that they could have a de facto, monopoly on the conversation between black men and black women forever, and that black men would just take it. That's mind-boggling to me.
Do you have a part of your audience that listens to you in secret?
Oh yeah, there are black women who follow me around. I don't know if you're aware of this. There is a very interesting documentary, came out about a decade ago, called Frustrated: Black American Men in Brazil. And it was made in response to a series of articles appearing in Essence magazine, which is the black woman's magazine, a record for nearly a half a century, complaining about how black men were going to Brazil to have sex with cheap sex with prostitutes and all the rest of it. And what's fascinating about it is that up until the present day, black women are still very upset about a lot of black men just leaving. They don't want to be bothered anymore. And it's gotten to a point now where black women will follow black down to Rio and actually argue with these guys on the beach. Why you got to come down here? Seriously. Yeah. I actually saw tape of it.
That's insane.
Yeah. But my point being is that these anecdotal incidents just goes to show you how the black manosphere is different from the white manosphere. I was talking with some people connected to the 21 convention, and I was telling them, there's a different conversation that has to happen between black men and black women versus white women and white men. Now, this is going to sound strange, what I'm about to say, but you guys have it a bit easier, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Aside from the Janice Fiamingos, Christina Hoff Summers, Karen Strawns, you also have this sense among white folks. And it's expressed by the aforementioned people I mentioned, but also Dr. Warren Farrell, Dr. Jordan Peterson, and others. That you guys got a good thing here. Y'all guys got a good thing going here. It ain't perfect, no doubt, but you got a pretty good thing going here. White men understand it. White women understand it. Remember, a majority of white women voted for the pussy-grabbing Trump nearly 4 years ago.
Right.
Okay? White women understand we got a pretty good thing here. White men understand we got a pretty good thing here. I mean, we may have our quibbles or whatever, but at the end of the day, we got a pretty good thing. So you're seeing white men and white women pushing back on their more radical elements in the form of Summers, Jordan Peterson, and others. You really don't have that in Black America.
Well, let's dig a little deeper into that if we can. I would agree with you. I think that's a very apt description until you start digging a little deeper. While we got a better thing in terms culturally of having a good number of women, at least superficially, on our side, and even many of them speaking to the talking points that we talk about as men of all races at all times. When you get down into the family courts and when you get into the meat of most relationships, we're just as miserable as anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's why so many white men are going MGTOW.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. There's an uphill fight, but at least you guys got y'all on the way. In Black America, like I said, I mean, it's the idea of black women doing a Christina Hoff Summers or Karen Strong, it's a non-starter. And the main reason is because the academy, the institutions that generate all of this, they completely intersectional. Their intersectionality is the order of the day, and the only people whose voices can really be heard are those that toe the party line. So if there are black women like a Karen Strawn, who's not part of the academy, they're not on the scene for whatever reason. I believe it's because in the main, black women agree for the most part. I mean, the overwhelming majority, they agree with it. And on the black male side, I mean, black men are the black cultural elites, I'll put it that way. The black cultural elites are either true believers or, they're bitches. They're one of the two.
I've said often when I've been asked what the worst problem that men face, and when people ask them, they're generally asking about white men, even if they're not saying it. They're asking me, what's the biggest problems that men face? And my answer is other men.
Yeah.
That we have too many white knights, too many gynocentric fools for women that will believe and say and do anything for women's approval. Do you have the same problem?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Shit. That's the phase where we are. When I first started 4 years ago, my number one enemy, if you will, were black women. And to the extent that they tried to have us run off of YouTube. They tried to have an actual organized hit list. I was number one at the list. Tommy Sotomayor was number two. Couldn't believe it. I actually, was ahead of Tommy on that. And There was a long hit list. Was like,
congratulations.
yeah, thanks. I'm one of the most infamous guys around, and because my commentary was so biting. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with this, and I have a. I got my inspiration from the great shot jocks like Howard Stern and Tom Likas. So when I'm talking about my commentary about things in black women in particular, I have a phrase I use called black female fuckery. And that really rankles a lot of black women when I talk about that. And yeah. And so that's the reason why I ended up on this hit list. And they tried to have us run off. This was like 2 years ago. They tried to have us run off of YouTube. But what I noticed was after in 2018, right? 2017, they tried to have us run off. It didn't work. So they finally backed off of us. In 2018, I noticed that black women were starting to recede in terms of their ire. But now we were starting to get attacks from black men. And the way it works in black men, and you know about this, we're all red pills here. So, okay. Women's dual mating strategies. We all know what this is. Alpha fucks, beta bucks. Okay.
Right.
In black America, alpha fucks, beta bucks is the default setting of mating.
Okay. Has it always been that way?
Now, we could debate whether that's always been. I would say no. That's my impression of it based on all the data. But with a all-time low black marital rate, under 30%, with an out-of-wedlock birth rate now nearing 80%, and that's just for starters. We got the highest divorce rate, highest infidelity rate, and so on. Alpha fucks, beta bucks. In large part, not solely, but in large part, aided and abetted by a runaway train going off the rails welfare state. We now are faced with an alpha fucks, beta bucks as the default mode of mating in black America. And so what that means for your question is that when I'm on the air making the case to my brothers to say, look, you got to vote for Trump because we got to get rid of all of this welfare crap. What that means is for a lot of guys that are getting over with that, I'm directly threatening them. And so I had a lot of guys coming after me over the past since 2018. And so to answer your question, there are a lot of interest among a certain segment of black men that I'm directly challenging. Right. And it's brutal. I mean, we start talking about pussy, things can get really brutal. So, yeah. And that's my particular focus is mating. But a matter of fact, I say to my listeners, the number one problem facing black America is not racism, but the sobering reality that black male and black female can't get along. And that's the source of all of our problems.
That brings up another question I have to mind, and this is something I've noticed over the years, Mumia. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when I see actually very articulate, wonderful, competent, successful black women ascend, they marry white men.
It's a very small percentage. You're looking at I think it's last time I checked, it was less than 10%. But yeah, they do exist. Yeah.
People like Harris Faulkner and Candace Owens, others, and it probably, would we consider Candace Owens a candidate for that first of a major prominent female figure speaking out against feminism?
I would, but most black folks would not. I hate to say that, but yeah. Most black folks see Candace Owens as little more than a fraud. I hate to say this, but little more as a fraud.
Why is that?
Because she doesn't toe the black party line, which is that racism is the single biggest problem facing us. So if you don't say that as a general proposition going right out the gate, you're seen as suspect by a lot of black people. That's sad to say. I mean, it's the same reason why Thomas Sowell is persona non grata. and Shelby Steele and Walter Williams and Larry Elder. They just can't get any cultural traction among black folks because for a lot of black people, racism gives their lives meaning. If they had to just, get on about the business of, being a successful American, they'd be dead in the water. They just don't know how to do it.
What a shame. And what I see happening, and it's really unfortunate. I've often heard the black community and black men referred to as canaries in the coal mine.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely true. And now we're seeing what we were seeing in the 60s and 70s in the black community and inner cities is happening in rural America.
Absolutely. And by the way, black folk are gleeful about that. You don't have to take my word for it. You can just look around here on YouTube, Facebook, where black folks hang out. Black folk are, because the argument goes like this. Whites didn't care about us when the CIA was spreading crack around black America, so they're getting their just comeuppance with the whole opioid thing and all the rest of it. Now, personally, I think that's appalling, but that is the view among a lot of black folks.
Okay. And it apparently is a view among a lot of white folks because they are treating this with a lot of indifference. What's happening?
Yeah.
The same family breakup, the same way. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My opinion is that it was basically white liberals that destroyed the black family.
I agree with that.
I know that in 1960, the average black family had two parents and owned a home.
That's true.
And apparently that wasn't the model that liberal white America wanted.
No. And, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a liberal, his name lives on in infamy in the minds of a lot of black academics and that sort of thing. But he was prescient. He was a prophet. He predicted everything before, a half a century before the fact. He predicted.
Yep.
And, for a lot of, like I said, I talked to Glenn Lowry. A lot of black academics have a mixture of opportunism and carpetbaggery and good old-fashioned survivor's guilt mixed in with, neutered nuts. They just don't have the stones to say, man, you know what? Forget a Paul Elam or Mumia Obsidian Ali. Okay, fine. We're too radical. The fact that we don't have a black analog to Jordan Peterson, who simply talks about taking personal responsibility. We don't have that analog in black America. As a matter of fact, Jordan Peterson was attacked by one of black America's premier black academics, Michael Eric Dyson, at the Monk debate in Toronto. I believe it was Toronto, Canada. He attacked him, called him an angry white man. That is the standard bearer and apostle of cultural leaders of black America today. And that's really telling. We just don't have that analog. We don't.
I'm an angry white man, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean that's what we have, and the idea of what Jordan Peterson's talking about, it just wouldn't catch on in black America. It doesn't align with the narrative of being forever a victim.
How is this model you're painting is one of ultimate victimhood, a perpetual victimhood, and a resistance to anything that takes the individual out of the role of victim? How does this apply to black men in this culture? And I would aim that question more specifically for the men that you would consider to be in your audience.
Well, see,
are they breaking away from that kind of mentality?
Yeah, they are, because for the most part, black men in the black manosphere, in the main, don't really buy into those, the Black Lives Matter argument. We really don't buy into a lot of that. I mean, there's some people, on the fringes, but in the main, there's really not a whole lot of that. The central and dominant issue is centered on mating, and rightly so. I mean, that's the bedrock of any, in the black community. And we use that. We love that word. Matter of fact, I even mock it. I call it the communita. we love the idea that, you know, it takes a village to raise a child and all the rest of it. And I simply ask the question, well, what are communities made up of? And people will say families, and I say couples. Because where do families come from? They come from couples.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you don't have couples, can you really have families? And if you don't really have families, can you really have communities? I mean, that's where it starts. And the simple truth is that a lot of black people are ill-equipped to thrive in an American polity where the ideals of the Enlightenment, Judeo-Christian values, I'm not a Christian, nevertheless, the rule of law, rule by consent of the governed, those are just not ideals that black folks take seriously. We see them cynically as illegitimate.
Right.
And it's costing us.
And there's some historical reasons backing that up.
Well, those same historical reasons to back them up are also the same historical reasons that make it possible for me to talk to you today.
Yep.
You know, lots of Antietam. How many thousands of white men died for me to be here today? But let's talk about that.
Moving toward another line of questioning, I'm wondering, can you give us an idea of the biggest challenges facing black men in 2019? I mean, if you were asking me about men in general,
yeah,
I would talk about family courts. I would talk about domestic violence laws and things like that. I'm not sure that the answers would be the same in the black community.
No, they wouldn't. I would say, I think that the strength of the white manosphere, if you will, aside from the things I've already mentioned, is that they're in a position to be able to challenge the family courts and in the various laws and things like that. Because, you know, their foundation isn't so rickety, you know. But for the black manosphere and the conversation that has to happen between black men and black women, it's much more intimate. I mean, now what we'll do is we'll use all the political stuff and all the rest of it, as well as racism itself, as a kind of way to paper over the things I'm talking about. But when you really listen, you can't, because this is what I say to the more activist bent among us in black America. My question is simple. How do you propose to fight racism with a nearly 80% out of wedlock birth rate? How do you propose to fight and win? How do you propose to do it? How do you propose to fight racism and win when you have a nearly 70% divorce rate, a nearly 30% infidelity rate among black men, the lowest marital rate in black America since U.S. Census records were kept in the late 1890s, when Jim Crow was at its height? How do you propose to do it? Could the civil rights movement of the 1960s been successful with an 80% out of wedlock birth rate?
Fair questions.
I mean, it's the real fight in black America is between black men and black women themselves. We gotta sit down and talk. That's the only way this thing is going to work.
What's in the way of that?
Well, there's a lot of money interest. I know this is going to sound really strange to you, but I recently threw my hat into the dating coach arena. Let me explain what I mean by this. Black America, for the past few decades, has a burgeoning business. It's not a college industry. It's an industrial complex totaling in the billions of dollars a year, selling the idea of black love. Okay? And it's until very recently been aimed at black women. And it's massive, from Oprah to Steve Harvey and everything in between. And yet, the more dating coaches and relationship experts come on the scene, black men and black women grow further and further apart. So I decided it was part tongue-in-cheek, part, being an asshole satire, I guess you could say, but also part reductio ad absurdum. I wanted to just show the absurdity of it all. So I threw my hat in the ring as a dating coach for black guys. And I'm working on a book in that same regard.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And it's going to take trying to clear out what I call the black love machine. That whole complex of players that I just mentioned and all the money that's generated. It's not bringing black men and black women together. As a matter of fact, it's driving them further apart. There's one guy right now who calls himself a self-love ambassador and who, prepares black women to just basically spend their lives in what I refer to as regal spinsterhood on the basis that it's better to be alone than to deal with black men who ain't shit. Now, no doubt there are black men who ain't shit, but they're the minority. They're not the majority. And but it's understandable because he is himself one of those black men who ain't shit, referred to as a fuckboy, and he would know all about that life. But because he's very handsome and charming, black women get suckered in by that. And you need the loud and garrulous short guy to point out the glaring truth.
What would you say if you had a couple of minutes to talk to every black woman in America? What would you say to them?
Stop banging losers.
Stop banging losers.
Yes, because every black woman has banged a loser. Many of them have reproduced with them. Every black woman has banged a loser. Many have reproduced with them, gone broke over them, had broken lives because of them. If there's one thing I can say to black women writ large is stop fucking and banging and sucking and fucking and reproducing with losers.
How do you think that message goes down with them?
It doesn't. They hate me for it.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but that's freedom. See, that's the fundamental contradiction. Black women can't be queens and victims at the same time. They can't say they're strong, independent, don't need no man. They got the college education, and they're doing so well, but at the same time, they're victims. Which is it?
I've had that question myself many times. I always wondered why the world considers me to have more power and privilege than Condoleezza Rice.
And yeah, it's silly and reductionistic. It's like, are the topmost positions in the world, headed by white guys? Okay, fine. But, sure. Okay, but we had a black man as president too. So what does that say? Now, what black folks will say, well, that's the exception. That's the exception. That don't mean nothing, blah, blah, blah. Well, if it didn't mean nothing, why did you vote for him twice? If it meant absolutely nothing, if it didn't make a difference if a black man was there or not, why did the vast majority of black people, including conservatives like Colin Powell and Armstrong Williams, vote for Obama twice? If it didn't mean nothing.
If you could talk to all black men and have their ear, what would you say to them?
Speak up.
Yeah, man.
Speak up. Democracy, by its very nature, is loud. There is no such thing as a quiet democracy. The very nature of democracy is loud and raucous. If anybody ever studied, I love that show, The House of Cards. I don't know if you ever seen it. It's a TV show. Yeah, House of Cards. Frank Underwood, when he starts out in the show, he's a whip for the Democrat Party and in Congress. And you should see, the way that they do the show is very good. The way that they show the sessions in Congress is loud and raucous. If you ever one of my favorite pastimes is watching prime minister's questions over in the UK.
Yeah, they're a blast.
Loud and raucous, man. That's how it works. And black men have been so cowed into this notion of being the strong, stoic, silent type. That's not how change happens, man.
And who has cowed them into that?
Well, I was going to say black culture, but really what black culture means is black women.
Black mothers.
Yep. I mean, that's the queen of them all. I mean, you can't question the queen.
I've often heard the black community referred to as a matriarchy. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
More about that?
Yes. Some say that it owes to, the slavery experience. Others say it goes back even further to certain African societies. I'll leave that to brighter minds than mine to figure out. But in 2019, yes, black American society culturally, in a lot of de facto ways, is a matriarchy. And matter of fact, one of the reasons why the black manosphere is such a thorn in the side of so many black women is because we're not only are we speaking out, but we're not the right type of guys to speak out. Remember what I said earlier, alpha fucks beta bucks is the default setting of mating in black American society. And in many ways, it is kind of like a beehive. Black women have a certain small group. The 80-20 rule is real in black America. Black women have a small group of black men that they want to suck and fuck and reproduce with. And then they have a large majority of black men that are basically drones that are supposed to do all the heavy lifting. As a matter of fact, one of my most famous podcasts I've ever done was called Black Women Want Community Eunuchs.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's a little truth bomb that probably didn't settle in.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I have another podcast that said black women are sexual marketplace socialists.
Ooh. Do you have somebody that watches your six when you go?
A number of people say that. You say, "Oh my God, he's going to have people coming out there with torches and pitchforks." Well, one of the great things about me needing a cane to get around is that I now have a legal reason to carry around a cudgel. So
there you go.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm not really worried about it beyond that. But yeah, black men have to get more vocal, and it's happening now. I mean, the very fact that I'm here with you tonight proves that people are. And I know for a fact that there are people from BET and TV One and all these different outfits that are watching the Black Manosphere with great interest.
Well, I'm sure it's a threat.
Yeah, and the fact that we couldn't be stopped, we couldn't be shut down, makes some people nervous. And as far as I'm concerned, that the party's just getting started. Because my goal with this dating coach thing, my goal is to force black women to admit that there are a lot of good black men out there. They just don't want to fuck them. Because that's really what this comes down to. When you hear black women talking about there ain't enough black men on my level, we all heard it before. There aren't enough black men, too many black men in jail and on the down low, they gay, secretly gay. The biggest homophobes in the whole country are black women, don't you know? Be a black man and say something black women don't like. You're gay, you're a faggot, you're all this sort of thing. So when black women say these things, that's coded language. What they really mean is there are not enough of the guys that I want to suck and fuck. Now, here's my thing with that. I got no problem with personal preference. There's no accounting for taste. What I got a problem with is the way black women frame it. See, black women won't say, like, for example, take me, for example. Then people say, Obsidian, you say hateful things about black women and all the rest of it. I said, absolutely not. I know for a fact that there are good black people, good black women out there. Kind, smart, funny, a whole bit. I just don't want to see them get naked. That's all it means. That's it. Black women won't say the equivalent with regard to men, because to do that would be to A, give up the victim card, B, to admit that they're free. And part of being free means that you suffer from first world problems of being frivolous and superficial and shallow.
I think what you're talking about just defines the white community too, in those respects. I've been enjoying hearing you talk, and I picked up on some of the differences that are there. But if somebody asked me, what would I tell white women? Quit fucking thugs, and quit expecting for Sir Lancelot to come out of the fucking closet when you fucking hit the wall.
That's right. That's right. I got no problem with white women, black women, or whoever else having a dual mating. I know you know about this. There's a lot of anxiety among guys. They're the red pill guys and the pickup guys. There's a lot of anxiety among guys about hypergamy and the dual mating strategy. My thing is, I have no problem with your dual mating strategy. My only problem is you coming to me, like you said, the Sir Lancelot deal, after you done had your good time with Chad Thundercock. Look, go enjoy him. Do that. But you can't come back here after you're done. Just don't come here. You can't come here. You can do whatever you want to do. You just can't come here. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. You cannot come here after you done had your fun with Chad Thundercock. I teach my guys, baby mamas are off limits. Your baby mama, finito, done. It's a non-starter. No way in Hades I'm gonna roll with a baby mama. End of. It's that simple. I don't want to screw you.
That's enough to make women hate you right there.
Oh yeah. Oh, in the black community. Oh, wait till you hear me with the other one. I got a chapter in my book that I'm working on called "She'll Have the Salad," and that means yeah. She'll have the salad, because black women are the largest women but now, to be fair, all women in the United States, and read white, have a dress size problem. It's too goddamn big. That's true.
Yep.
But it's really big with black women. The average dress size of a black woman in the United States now is 18.
Good. Are you
18.
Kidding? Okay.
18. And, look, with the majority of black women being so big, let's face it, if you're going to deal with a black woman, she's going to be pretty large. And we got to do something to help our sisters out, fellas. So when we take them out to dinner, you do the ordering. You'll have a nice, like I did on my birthday the other day. Turned 51 on Monday. And thank you. And Archers of the World unite. And I had the nice sirloin steak and battered shrimp and potatoes, and she had the nice vegetarian salad. No vinaigrette dressing. Hold the croutons, seltzer water. That's what she'll have. We got to help them slim down, so we're going to do that. She'll have the salad.
You are so dead.
By the way, I was inspired by you all, my brothers from other mothers. White guys, and I tell my brothers this, white guys are brutal about this thing, because white women understand you're not going to get any man worth having, looking like a little tugboat. That's not going to happen. White guys ain't going for it. White guys that's got something going for them, it's a non-starter. Period. Them white girls be spinning their ass off in them gyms, man, trying to stay fit and trim. That's a fact. And black,
they do order the salad.
Yeah. And so it's time that black women follow suit. And of course, guys say, well, what if she doesn't want to do that? Or, hey, if she wants to eat whatever she wants to eat, not a problem. She's paying for it. She can eat whatever she wants, as long as she's willing to pay for it. I'm not paying for it. I'm paying for a date, then I determine what happens, including the sucking and fucking at the end.
That's a concept, because what you're talking about is basically leading with your masculinity. And it's like, in politically correct terms, it's one of the worst attitudes you can have, is to own your masculinity and lead with it.
That's right. We are in a time, and this sounds kind of cliche, but it's true. We exist in a time where it's a crime to be a man. And I think Dr. Farrell said this in an interview. I can't remember where I heard it, but he said in the interview, men go on dates to have sex. Now that's Dr. Farrell's a good man, gentleman, and a scholar. So he is very diplomatic. But I know you and I, we're both quite ribald. So in the words of Tom Likas, dating equals porking. That's why men go out on dates. If men were just going out on dates just to chop it up with women, there would be no dates. Because I'm not going out to listen. The last thing I want to do with a woman on a date is listen to her talk. I have zero desire to do that. I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to sit there and go and suffer through that crap. The reason why I take out a woman is to see what kind of underwear she's got on. I want to see her bent over. That's it. So if a woman doesn't want to do that with me, hey, by all means, let me know right now. We can part ways. You'll never hear from me again. Trust me.
Oh, if we could only get this message across, it's absolutely true. And I've tried to explain this to women, and they have a very heartbreaking time getting it when I explain to them from the moment a man meets you and learns your name, his mind is wired for matters horizontal.
Yep. It's sooner than later, of course, but absolutely.
Have all the dinners you want, have all the talk you want. That's what it boils down to.
Yep. I always tell the ladies, right, I can listen to everything you talk about once I bust a nut. I mean, after that, you want to talk, go ahead. You got about 5 minutes till I fall asleep. Go right ahead. Knock yourself out. Go.
Well, I can't imagine why black women don't like you, Mumia. I'm just sitting here scratching my head saying, why don't they love this guy?
And they always try to say, well, you hate black women. Absolutely not. I think black women are some of the greatest people in the world. I own quite a few of them. I think everybody should own one.
Well, all women are screaming all the time about men being honest. They want a guy that's honest.
Oh, absolutely.
And all you do is tell the truth.
Oh, yep. Believe me, but that's the secret to my success. I'm only giving the ladies what they claim to want. You want a guy that's good looking and well dressed and all that? Hey, you got it. You want a guy that's well spoken? I talk to people for a living. You want a guy that's successful, ambitious? This is my full-time occupation. Been successful at it now for 4 years straight. I mean, right on down the line. You want a guy to tell you the truth? I'll tell you the truth. I want to see what kind of, do you wear? Sports bra, underwire? What's the deal? Wonder bra, what's the deal here?
Well, you've certainly earned it, man. No, I remember you've been through some rough times.
Yeah, and I can laugh about it now. I mean, I tell a lot of guys, black guys, I tell them that this is the greatest country in the world, man. I wouldn't trade it for shit. And I damn sure wouldn't want to live in a monarchy. You can keep that. Hell no, I love it here. It's got its problems, but I ain't trading it for a goddamn thing. I love America. God bless America. And we got problems here. I mean, this gender thing and all the rest of it. But we can work it out. We'll work it out. We always have.
Are you really that hopeful?
Absolutely. Hey, listen, we're the society that not only broke the back of American slavery, we're the society that broke the back of slavery worldwide.
Absolutely, and that is a fact that is not nearly addressed enough. The fact that a constitution was written that was flexible enough to make it by at the times, but eventually extend more rights to more people than any society in human history.
That's right, and that's something that we need to remind ourselves of, and especially in the Manosphere, white and black alike, we need to keep that in mind moving forward. Look, I mean, we had some difficulties and some rough spots and stuff, sure, but if we just stay the course, things are turning around. And look at what Donald Trump has endured, and I'm not here to stump for him, so to speak, but just make a point. They have done everything that they, meaning the cultural elites, the left, the coastal elites, they have done everything they could to take this man down. He's still there.
You gotta love that motherfucker.
I do. And black men love him too. Black men love Trump. I mean, they're saying that as much as 40% of black men gonna vote for him next year. I know I'll be one of them.
Yep. And if he gets 40% of the black vote, or even the black male vote, it'll be a electoral landslide.
You got that right. You know, one of my favorite movies, and I don't know if y'all guys touched on this, but one of my favorite movies, MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of my favorite movies I ever saw, the very first Iron Man movie, Robert Downey Jr. And the reason why is because he embodies the best of what it means to be an American. And one of those things is he's a man that don't apologize for liking poon.
Absolutely right. I wonder often what they thought they were doing when they thought they had Trump at grab him by the pussy.
Oh yeah.
He was telling the truth.
Oh yeah, he absolutely telling the truth. See, the thing about white women, and I want to make sure that you guys understand this. The thing about white women versus black women, believe it or not, white women are much more pragmatic than black women are. White women will talk a mean game about I am woman, hear me roar, this, that. But when the rubber hits the road, they fall in line. Black women, on the other hand, they're true believers. They believe all this feminist crap. And they're gonna ride that thing until the wheels fall off. Black America is facing a major demographic problem, and it's not one that they think. Because of the events of the past. And also because of black women's own liking for losers with a big juicy cock, that you now have a cohort, a rising tsunami of aging Gen Xer, late 30s through 50s black women that are de facto spinsters that are making everybody in black America fucking miserable. And we have absolutely no way to deal with that. It's not even on the radar of the cultural elites in black America.
I imagine they'll stay in denial as long as they possibly can.
Absolutely, and of course they'll blame black men for it. But you know, I'm on it. I'm on the scene, and I'm going to keep talking about it. And you know, the black women, you know, Tom Likas was right. You know, you treat women like crap, they keep coming back. It's true. I know for a fact that's true. I talk like about these broads like the bitches that they are, and they keep coming right back to my radio show.
Oh yeah. I heard a man say once, how much do I have to shit on her to make her love me? And it's true.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, sad to say, I mean, it's kind of fucked up, but it's true. It is true. You treat them like crap, they keep coming back.
That is one of the sad things about this discussion. We've covered that we live in a land, 600,000 Americans died ending slavery. And sure enough, just like you said, we didn't just end slavery here. We ended slavery over most of the world, certainly all the Western world.
You got that right.
That ended here. We managed to accomplish that. And we can't manage to get women to behave responsibly.
Yeah, that is. It's come to this, right?
Yeah, we landed on the moon 50 fucking years ago.
Yeah, and it does really, you know, it makes you wonder. You know, I'm not like I'm a very, 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 very moderate Muslim, but I gotta admit, you know, you think about it, you say, yeah, those guys are kind of crazy, but you do got a point.
Hey man, I ain't arguing with the logic. Not for a minute. Folks, I'm talking to Mumia Obsidian Ali of Obsidian Talk Radio and of the Black Manosphere, if we can use that name for this discussion. Anything else you want to say before we close out, sir?
No. If you want to take questions, I'm here. If not, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I had a great time, and hoping that you can return the favor at some point.
Absolutely. I would love to have you back, too. Unfortunately, this is not live. It'll be going out later this evening.
Very good. I'll be happy to come back. Just let me know when, and I'm here.
All right.
Hopefully the next time around we can take some calls.
Absolutely. We'll work it out.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. You take care now. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And all the best to you and everybody over at A Voice for Men. Happy holidays.